first discovered Ibogaine's effects in 1962. I, like a lot of other young people then and now, were experimenting with drugs, including heroin, and I had become a new heroin user, possibly 3 months, maybe 6 months into use. And I was visiting a chemist I know because I was widely experimenting with drugs, and he went into his freezer and he said, here's something you'll probably be interested in. I said, what is it? He said, it's Ibogaine. I said, what can you tell me about it? He said, well, it's a hallucinogen from Africa and it lasts 36 hours. And I took the dose of Ibogaine, and I was on the way to see a psychologist at the time. And the drug was reported to take effect in 7 hours, except it took effect in 1 hour. So I tell the driver, who was the person who I had given the drug to originally, that this is happening now. It's not taking 7 hours. So by the time I got to my psychologist's appointment, the drug was fully effective. And I got out of his truck and I started walking across the street. And suddenly something said, look behind you. And I looked behind me, and there were like 7 distinct images of myself. And as one image would leave my body, the last one that I saw would disappear. So I walked into my psychologist's office, and I said, I'm on Ibogaine. Turn on your tape recorder, and I'll tell you what I'm seeing. And I went through my session with the psychiatrist. And I got home, and I still didn't realize what had happened because I did not take Ibogaine to stop my heroin use. And about 23 hours into it, all of the exotic effects of Ibogaine had stopped, and you're just left with exhaustion. And the last thing I can remember saying to myself before I fell asleep was, why in the world did you take this drug? I'm going to sleep for 2 weeks. And then what happened was, 3 hours later, I woke up completely refreshed, and I still didn't realize what had happened to me. And I got dressed, and I walked out of the house, and I walked down the steps of my family's house, and I stopped dead in my tracks on the street, and suddenly I realized that I was not in heroin withdrawal. And immediately after I realized that I wasn't in heroin withdrawal, I realized that my perception toward heroin had entirely changed. Where previously I had viewed heroin as a drug which gave me comfort, I now viewed heroin as a drug which emulated death. And the very next thought into my mind was, I prefer life to death. Concerning the dangers of Ibogaine, you have to look at it in a number of different ways. Who is administering the Ibogaine? Where is it administered? What controls are taken to assure the safety of a patient? How does Ibogaine's toxic effects, if there are toxic effects, compare with other drugs? And what you see is that Ibogaine is generally no more or less toxic than most drugs that are on the market today. Like quinine, like aspirin, certainly not nearly as dangerous as the anti-cancer drugs. Certainly, I would say, less dangerous in many ways than drugs such as Prozac or Thorazine. The question is risk-benefit, and the suffering that could be eliminated by Ibogaine availability would be staggering, both to the individual and society. And what I would like to see in the future is Ibogaine available to any patient that needs it in any major city in the country or the world.
Wat we bij de dieren gezien hebben is veelbelovend. De klinische trial in Amerika die loopt nog steeds, dus daar hebben we geen directe informatie van. Maar ik denk dat het zeker de moeite waard zou zijn om met deze stof verder in een dierexperimenteel onderzoek te gaan en toch te kunnen proberen of we de klinische trial in Nederland met ibogaine bij verslaafden toch ook doorgang zou kunnen vinden.
If we are to overcome the illicit or illegal use of Ibogaine, the government and the medical community must step in and perform their obligations to the chemical-dependent community, to the heroin addicts, to society in general, in order to break the back of addiction.